dog for a while. Can you have a proper wedding world? Oh, mother. Father, gonna take your daughter out tonight. Gonna show her my world. Oh, father. Not about to see your way. But if you wanna find hell with me, I can show you what it's like. Shut up, bleeding. Not about to see your light. And if you wanna find hell with me, I can show you what it is. Mother, tell your children not to hold my hand. Tell your children not to understand. Oh, mother. Do you wanna bang heads with me? Do you wanna be everything? Oh, mother. Not about to see your way. And if you wanna find hell with me, I can show you what it's like. Till I'm bleeding, not about to see your light. And if you wanna find hell with me, I can show you what it Okay, take two. It's just I had to just if you're watching this on YouTube or whatever, I just had an attempt to stream for like 10 minutes where just the whole kit was just exploding in real time and like breaking down on me, which meant that Mother by Danzig, like the simplest rock song in the world, right, was just like out of my reach because I was so like psyched out by it. But that was better. That was better. It's like, it's so weird now. It's like the kit itself almost has to warm up now in order to not just have particularly the ghost crash symbol going at all times. Like it almost needs to be played on for like 20 minutes before it actually like works as intended anymore. It's such a odd system. But I for some reason that song has been in my head recently. I don't know why. I think maybe it auto played as like a recommendation in one of my playlists or something like that, and I just remembered how great a song is. It's also like, it's very simple for the drums, obviously, but it's also kind of a weird part. Like the way that the accents are matched with like the guitar riff is very strange. The places where there are sort of stops are also very strange. There's a lot of weird stuff where like he'll do something one way on the first verse or the first chorus, but then it's always slightly different with every repetition. So like, if you're talking about like the stabs where the music kind of stops suddenly, the first chorus he plays
stuff like this. So like all of the places where you have a rest, it'll go like the stops are like this. Like he'll play it on the snare during that first rest. But then he like never plays it again that way. Like he never plays it again with like a flam on the snare. He'll do it just all over the kit in different places. Like it's kind of a masterclass in just like keeping the listener's ear active, even in like a very simplistic context. Because like he really doesn't play much of it the same way twice, even though the song is like pretty straightforward. It's also like the ways in which he hits those stabs are very odd. Like my instinct on a lot of those would be to like choke a cymbal or something like that. Just to have the sound. It's these parts where like the riff just drops out. To me, that kind of is something where with metal chops, you're often trained to just like you end something on like a flam on a snare, right? Or you like choke a crash cymbal or something. Like I would a more conventional metal composition would almost have it be the same every time, A, and then B, it would be something like this. I'm never gonna be able to choke that cymbal again. It's so crazy. Um, yeah, but like there's just things like that where you would fill things out with quads so that your limbs wouldn't have to stop moving or whatever. And not to like make too much of something that's very simple. I just think it's interesting because like you know, I think it's little things like that you know oftentimes oftentimes for me it's very vexing when like most drummers in bands like this, they don't have any songwriting credits. Because the assumption is like they're not really writing the song, they're writing like their own part for the drums. The songwriters are like the guitarists coming up with the melody and then like the vocalist who's maybe writing the lyrics or whatever. And that's songwriting. But it's like I think about, a song like that or even some of like the more simplistic Black Sabbath songs from the early albums and stuff like that where it's like someone who was playing with a much more conventional approach for the time on the drums. A lot of those songs would have felt and sounded completely different. And it's clear that, I don't know who recorded that song for Danzig. Honestly, I don't know the guy's name. But, like Bill Ward is a great example of this, of like, if someone else was recording those songs, it would suddenly become very clear that Bill Ward was partially a songwriter. You know what I mean? Like, first and foremost, right? Like, something like the drum solos in War Pigs, obviously, right? It's like that was a weird thing because it was sort of a combination of sort of more old school, maybe tasteful playing, but then also cut halfway to a much more sort of heavy metal, straightforwardly, you know, early like rock and roll heavy metal approach where it was like very muscular single strokes and stuff like that. It's like a more conventional drummer of the time who was more used to, I don't know, playing like, Rolling Stones songs or something like that. I just don't think would have had those drum solos sound the same. I mean, it could have sounded something more like this. I feel like that's a little bit more along the lines of like what a more conventional drummer would have played, but instead you get these weird, yeah, these early iterations of fills that then people in heavy metal would be ripping off for decades to come. Much more like energetic, much more muscular, much higher note density, so it feels faster. All sorts of stuff like that. It's like, I don't think it's too much to say that those are like important songwriting contributions. They might not be like the guitar melody or whatever, but yeah, different drummers would play those things drastically differently. It's like how many metal bands have a cover of something like War Pigs where it's just like the drum solos are just like totally conventional 2010s metal stuff, right? Not that there's nothing cool about that, but it's like I feel like I've heard so many covers of that song where it's like, yeah, it's all just like, oh, what if we replaced the really cool unique fills with like quads? It's like, okay, okay, great. That's exactly what we need. We need more like soloed quads and stuff like that. I mean, there's even a song I'm gonna play today where like there's a drum solo in it, and I think the drum solo fits very well, but it's just like a set of quads. You know what I mean? Like, and it's very simple. Like, it does actually move across the toms, but only one hand does. Like, one hand is just doing this the whole time. It's just the other hand that moves. So it's almost like the minimum amount of variation that you can possibly have in a drum part. It's, I think on record, it's literally this. So it's like even when I hear that, it's like I want to add at least a little variation. It's like if it's just going to be straight up quads for like four measures, I would rather have it be like this. At least then there's like some more color and some more life to it. You know what I mean? Because like, it's not like what like adding more variety is going to make people lose track of the beat, right? It's just like where you are. It's not like you're going to lose the mojo if you move it around a little bit. Um, but yeah. Sorry, I had to restart. I had to restart that whole thing because I was just so pissed off at the drum kit and I didn't know where to go from there. I do have a bunch of new stuff today, but it's kind of mixed in with the stuff that we've played for the past maybe 2 episodes at this point, something like that. Just to try to just to try to perfect some stuff that I've been doing, or at least get it close. So we're gonna do the Slipknot song again, just because it took me until now to actually understand the timing. I think I mentioned that on the last episode, but the timing's odd throughout much of the song. But I think I have it now. So we're gonna see. I think I have this at the correct volume here, but I might need to mess around with it for a sec. But I think we have it. Let's see.
Trouble and different disguise. I found a walk with a target on my back. At least I'm ready for another
Oh, that's much better than the past couple times I played it. I had it like exactly on, I think, yesterday. And today too, actually. I played it a little bit earlier today. I had it like totally right on. There's still a couple of things that I didn't quite land that time. I think yeah, the blast beat section, just remembering where the 1 is there. I think I maybe didn't come in a little bit late on that, but I think I was unsure of where the 1 was. But still generally much closer to what it needed to be. It's really it's a great arrangement to play around with a lot. And again, you know, I'm happy with that because I got to add in a lot of my little flourishes and things like that without it being too distracting. I think I love that adding that like accented hammer blast thing on the repeat of the chorus near the end. That thing where both hands are kind of in unison and it's like that kind of thing. I think that is just so cool there. I think the build there is so much more intense than what's actually on the record. Let me actually just try to play that again because I think that part is so cool. Actually, you know what? Since I kind of want to get the blast beat part right as well, let's play it from that breakdown section.
Can see the day when you walk out up in flames.
Yeah, that's much closer. It's really just a thing of I think I mentioned this before, but the main riff is so sort of slidey sounding and serpentine and muddy that it's kind of using the other context clues of like particularly the vocals as well as the sort of the scratching, the DJ scratching, to internalize like where the one is, where the downbeat is. But once you have that, you can kind of play around with the arrangement, because at the end of the day, it's basically just 4/4 at like a moderate tempo, right? But it's like very insistent eighth notes. So as long as you don't get too off of track on, what's the upbeat and what's the downbeat, and you actually kind of remain solid throughout that, it's actually not that big a problem to mess around with the arrangement a little more. Yeah, like the second half of that was exactly what I would want it to be that time around. I have a ton more stuff planned today, but I feel like I'm on like month 3 of still feeling like a little ill for some reason. So I've been drinking water like crazy, so I need to use the restroom quickly, and then I will be right back. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've mentioned this on stream, but like, yeah, if you've heard me on stream, you've noticed I have like a slight I've had like a slight cough for like weeks now after I got COVID, and I've had it basically ever since. And I think it's like slowly fixing itself, but yeah, it's like the cough hasn't gone away. So I've been drinking tons of water, but the side effect is like, I have these mega long streams, so I can't really get away with it without having to pee like once. That's too much information, though. Let's see. Yeah. So, okay. So post the drum kit almost driving me insane in the first 10 minutes there. That's 2 pretty good takes. Mother was pretty good. There's like some little like microtonal or micro rhythmic things in that, where like certain downbeats I feel like I land like a millisecond too early or late on, but I was pretty happy with it in general. Same thing with the Slipknot song, some little micro time things, but it was all in the second half of the song, and I think I basically fixed it by playing the second half there. So I'm pretty happy with that. I really know, I I was never into Slipknot really, so that album that the Negative One is on was like my first actual like Slipknot album. That was my first like purchased album. I still think about half of that album is actually like really pretty great. And then I think after that I went back to Iowa like immediately. I think that was my second purchase, and yeah, I mean some of the drums on that are just totally off the wall. And it's so cool too, because you can really hear that they recorded it without a metronome. Like it's just so like this is a pretty well-known thing in like the drumming world at this point, but like it's so cool to hear the opener. I can't even remember which song the opener is, but like I can't remember what the part exactly is. I'll remember it vaguely, but like the first like maybe 24 measures of the opening track on Iowa ramps up in tempo gradually, and like the ramp up is so drastic that I mean I think it's literally like at this level. Like the speed up and tempo is like that drastic, and played about that messily as well. But somehow it's like this. It's like some sort of like rickety old like out of code roller coaster or something like that, where it just continues trucking along, and by some magic of the chemistry of the 9 guys, the whole thing just manages to not quite fall apart. And that's like most of the songs on that album. So I don't know. I mean, Iowa and honestly Point 5 are weirdly like kind of my 2 favorite ones. And Point 5 because of almost the opposite reasons. Like it's, you know, maybe 2 decades on or something like that. I can't even remember. But like it's very refined, it's very modern, it's very surgically precise, but the songs are great. And I think you can hear that in the negative one. Like it's a very kind of precise modern metal album, but at the same time it's just got this weird charm to it where like they still do the sort of caveman beat that Slipknot plays in like all of their songs. You know, it's like in spite of the fact that it's this very perfect sounding album, they still have drum beats that are just like, you know, there's something kind of charming about that. I don't know exactly what it is, but yeah. And then there's, yeah, you know, there's some great just like, there's some great like, I don't know, there's still some pretty creative parts on it, I would say. Like, I still think Jay Weinberg's greatest contribution to the band is the kind of weird drum beat that only he ever seems to play. Like, I've never heard another person play this, but he does, where it's like quarter notes on a loud cymbal, and then the snare pattern is. But I've never seen anyone play it like him, where he plays that with 2 hands, and it's just like very cool looking. You know, there's just weird stuff on that album like that, where you're like, that's actually still quite like creative. They still have a lot of like youthful energy, even though I guess they're all in like their mid 40s or something like that. You know, I like that one. I haven't really even tried to listen to any of the albums after Point 5. Because the truth is, I don't know. It's the problem with nu metal in general. It's like, how much of the same can you really have in your life before you start to get sick of it? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's like Freak on a Leash is a great song, but, you know, I don't really need to hear Jonathan Davis do his, like, metal scat thing in, like, other songs. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that as one great song. I don't need 10 songs just like it or whatever, you know? Yeah. Well, now for something... I was going to say now for something completely different, but I want to check what I actually wanted to play next. Oh yeah, I think I want to play Harlequin Forest by Oldpeth, which is something I've played on Instagram, but I've never played on stream. Mostly just because between the Slipknot song and the song I really want to play, which I'm going to play later on, I've noticed my snare hand is getting like very tired. It's just so involved on my right hand that I'm like, it gets tired if I don't break it up with some songs that are at like a slightly slower tempo. So I'm just going to play something that's you know, not easy, but something that's long. It's a little bit of a calmer pace, you know? And then we'll move on to some other stuff. But yeah, this is new for the stream at least, so I didn't feel too bad about recycling this to a certain degree. This is Harlequin Forest by Oldpeth.
Into the tree, into the Nocturnally helpless, weak in the light, depending on a prayer. Pacing deserted roads to find a seed of hope.
pretty good. Pretty good. Haven't played that in ages. Yeah, the only, it's one of these songs where the arrangement flows so nicely that you can kind of, you can get everything down and good, without having to worry about it too much. There's nothing sort of too fast or anything that really sneaks up on you, with the sole exception being really that kind of mini drum solo section. And even that, if you're committed to basically improvising it, there's no real issues there. It's really just if you want to mimic what is actually played on record, you need to kind of maintain a relatively good memory of what exactly it sounds like, which I think now that I've played it, I could tell you exactly what goes on in that section. Maybe plus or minus one of the drum breaks. I think one of them I would have to improvise. But I remember, I think, pretty much all of them. I think on record, it's pretty much this. It's pretty much that, and even that, not super, nothing super crazy there. It's really just not getting thrown off at the one that transitions between the first half and the second half of that. So you have half of that section where there are no vocals, and then you have half with vocals, and the transition point between those two, of course, Martin plays. If you want to play it like it's on the record, he plays, of course, the sort of most awkward, unnatural feeling drum break out of everything he plays. Like he could have played, in the one that transitions to the vocals, something nice. He has a big old triplet roll across the toms in there. He could have played that. But no, of course, right at the sort of critical moment of transition, he plays the most awkward feeling one, which is this one. Mostly just because, that guitar riff repeats so many times that it gets kind of stuck in your head. It's like just sitting back there the whole time going dun da 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 dun da 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 dun da 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 dun da 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 dun dun da 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 da, and it just sits there and does that over and over again. And so you get used to like matching the accents on that, which is basically stopping on the dun da 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 da. You stop just before the downbeat, and then you go into the fills. But of course, out of that one, you don't match the accent. Weirdly, he does like a 5-stroke roll into that weird fill, which doesn't at all match the accent pattern. Dun da 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 da. Like he just like rolls right through it without actually hitting the accent. He just blazes past it, basically. See what I mean? The rest of them, you go like you match the guitar riff, like you're literally going like dun da 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 dun da 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 da, and that one you don't at all. Like there's not even an effort to match the accent, which is part of why it sounds so confusing when you hear it on the record the first time around. Is you're like, well, there's some off kilter thing going on here, and it's just because he's just rolling past that accent without even trying to match it. It's yet another one of these little like fun moments in an Opeth song where you're like, oh man, like they actually have some, like clearly that was improv on that take in the studio. You know what I mean? Like I don't think anyone wrote that down and was like, oh, this is what should go here. I think it was like, no, just come up with some drum fills, because it kind of evolves that way. Like they kind of get busier and busier with each like take as time. Like as each drum break happens, they get sort of more and more dense. Like they start with very little going on. Like it kind of crescendos across 8 measures or whatever, and then kind of drastically decrescendos into the quiet repeat of the riff. But yeah, it's like a kind of complex, weird arrangement. I think it only repeats those 3 times, right? Because it goes with just the riff 4 times, then it goes with the riff and the vocals 4 times, and then it does the quiet one 4 times. So it goes for 12 measures total or something like that. It's kind of an interesting, it's just like, again, the funny thing is Opeth is known for just repeating things so many times. And so it's always interesting when they repeat something for like an odd number of times, because it's a very minor shift, but you really feel it. Especially like the first time that you hear some of these songs, it's like when they do actually play with the meter or the shape of the phrases, you're like, oh wow, that's actually like really obvious, and stuff really takes you by surprise, even though the changes are like very subtle. Just because they tend to just repeat things for like, they'll repeat something 16 times and it's exactly that. It's something that repeats in exactly an even number of measures, and that's how they do it every time or something like that. So when something only repeats 3 times or whatever, it feels like this big seismic shift, because there's such a like meditative quality to the music otherwise, where it repeats in exactly the way that you would sort of anticipate, very interesting. I don't know. My brain is like full of muck and fog. I feel a little sick, to be honest, and I have for like weeks, so I'm not feeling amazing, but we're gonna play that dance song again. We're gonna play that Kesha remix again, because I got that in my head after playing it last episode, and I was like, you know what, that's actually a fun one. So that's what we're gonna do. Let me see. I will need to check the volume on this one, but we'll be good to go after that.
This place about to blow. This
Yeah, that was much more on the money than when I just kind of tried to randomly play that last episode. Again, it's like, as with a lot of like electronic music, there are these very specific stop-start moments and stabs and stuff like that, and like if something is accented or if like a melody kicks in on beat 2 rather than beat 1, you better make damn well sure that you are accenting beat 2 and not coming in just on the downbeat with a crash cymbal or something like that, because like it will sound off and it will sound weird. Yeah, that was much more on the money. It's still a balancing act with like EDM stuff if you're gonna have a sort of acoustic sound palette like that, because sometimes I think like ghost notes and accents and things really just don't come through necessarily, so you need to be really intentional. I mean, this is why that really cartoonishly animated German guy who shows up, on like Instagram, or like seems to visit Drumeo all the time and stuff like that. That German guy, Michael Schenker. That's why he's so good at like the EDM stuff, is because everything he plays is like, he plays like the polar opposite of a jazz drummer, in the sense that you look at him play, everything is very intentional. Everything is very choreographed, because it's like you have these big, exaggerated, huge flourishes with the hands and stuff like that. Like, that is a guy who knows exactly what he's going to be playing in a given composition, and is just like unapologetically kind of like flamboyant about it. And that really is kind of the way to play some of that EDM music. I mean, I guess it's a different story if you want to get into like maybe like some breakbeat stuff, some drum and bass, or some jungle or something like that. Or, whatever, like Aphex Twin or whatever, where it's a lot more like, I guess sort of like Lewis Cole style, like really fast combinations of like ghost notes and accents and stuff like that, where there's maybe a little bit more dynamic room. But even then, it's very un-jazz-like, in the sense that you really kind of need to know where you're going compositionally. You can see this with like not only Lewis Cole, but like Jojo Mayer and stuff as well, where it's like they're playing a version of electronic music that has a greater room for dynamics, but even still, it's like the music is oftentimes so blazingly fast or whatever, or it's so intricate that you really need to be able to lock into grooves and patterns very intentionally, and not so much like improvisationally. Like I can't even. This is going to be a terrible attempt to sound like Lewis Cole or Jojo Mayer, but it's very fast, busy beats. Like, things need to sound very precise, very robotic, and so even when there's a lot of dynamic shifts happening in the music or whatever, yeah, like you really need to know exactly what each limb is doing at any given time. And as you can tell, like, you know, even stylistically, I'm so unused to having to play like that. It's like, no, like, like I'm not in practice for that kind of thing. Again, like, you know, my palette is currently kind of really adapted to metal music, which is playing everything really consistently, like fortissimo at all times, at pretty much any speed. You know what I mean? Like, that's at the moment, at least with the practice regimen that I'm doing, kind of what I'm adapted to. And again, if that's generating any sort of habits or anything like that, that I'm not trying to intentionally build, part of the only way that I found to counteract that is, again, you know, as we talked about a bunch on this stream, is just to play with the books. You know, just that's the only way. If you're practicing to play a specific kind of music really well, the only way to ensure that you're still broadening your horizons sufficiently, I think, really is to like dig into other musical styles in whatever the most accessible way is. And that for me is literally to have exercises and sheet music where it's like, you are going to practice exactly this thing, and that will help you understand, you know, claves better or something like that. And that's a good way to counteract like the tunnel vision that you can get when you're like, okay, I'm practicing, you know, getting my double bass up to 220 BPM or something like that. You know, when you're that narrowly focused, the only way to counteract that is to have really explicit, you know, instructions about like, okay, that's great, but dedicate a little bit of your practice time to like something else that's like just completely not part of the regimen otherwise. You know what I mean? Something that's just kind of out of the blue, something you're interested in preferably, you know, like, again, I'm still interested in all of my South America, Latin America, you know, all of that, so Afro-Cuban, like all of that stuff is really interesting to me. So like, that's something that I don't need to, it doesn't feel like work if I'm practicing that, because it's like, oh, it's kind of fun. Like, even if it's literally just to take like Baby's first samba rhythm and to apply it to drum like the kit in a way that's kind of like very rudimentary and simple. That's like, I still think that kind of like I can feel my neurons, you know, shaping in a productive way. And it's at least something to do other than just like my metal chops, you know, just to even take like samba and put it on the snare and then split it between the snare and the bass drum and then to improv a little bit around it. Like, that's at least something. I didn't actually mean to solo there, but I suddenly had like a burst of like little fragments of ideas that I wanted to try out. It's amazing what having the ability to practice for more than like 15 minutes before starting this thing lets me get away with. It's like literally I feel like with just a sufficient amount of practice time, even just like improving, let alone playing songs, like the ease with which I can play things, and also just the level of quality jumps like an entire percentile. It feels like it's like, I don't know, that it's so weird. It's so weird how much easier it is to play like fast stuff or weird offbeat stuff or whatever. It's crazy. Like, even just being able to land like the Slipknot song pretty much. And pretty much getting Harlequin Forest again. I mean, you know what I actually want to do before I move on? I want to try just the drum break section of Harlequin Forest again. Because now now that I'm like remembering that there's actually, now that I remember the order that the little drum breaks come in, I want to try it again. This might be too loud now. I can't remember. Wait a second. Let's see what happens here. I just want to try this section, or the drum break section. Oh yeah, in the tradition of great outros to Opeth songs. The best of which, of course, is still Deliverance, which was the outro to Deliverance was the outro to Deliverance was the thing that I literally snapped the chain on my double pedal, my first double pedal that I ever had playing. I snapped the chain on it, playing the double bass to the outro of Deliverance many, many years ago, right? So I probably wasn't even playing it particularly sort of accurately or whatever. But I can't even quite remember what the outro is. It's another one of these weird things that repeat a bunch, but also off time kind of loops weirdly within a measure of 4/4. I think the guitar part is only a couple of notes. I think it's da do do da da do do da do da do do da dun da do do da dun digga 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 dum bum bu bu bum bu bu bum bu bu bum bu bu bum ba bu bu bum ba do bu ba bum da do gu dun dun digga digga ba bum digga 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 dum dum bu bu bum bu bu bum. I think I could play it. Let me see. Something like that. It might go around one extra time beyond that, which would make sense for an Opeth song. It would make sense if it just never ended and kept repeating until you literally fell asleep. But the loop is something like that. Yet another one of those things where I have the feel down, but the problem is really remembering which beat is beat one. Just because the beat itself gets turned around enough times where the backbeat is, I think, not consistently on 2 and 4. Like it flips to 1 and 3, or something like that. It's something where like you can get the feel down, but it's remembering just specifically when each measure stops and starts, because you need to transition to that bigger, more expansive, which is the one with the kind of slow, consistent double bass underneath it, which requires you to remember where one is. You can't just like lock into that pattern and sit there, which is kind of what you can do in that one in Harlequin Forest. Like, you don't really need to count that, as long as you kind of remember that. As long as you remember that the guitar goes. As long as you remember basically the rhythm of that, you can kind of just stop counting. But the one in Deliverance is so weird because it's got a great feel. It's very alien, but yeah, you can't stop counting either. Like, it's very precise and particular, Okay, so I've played enough slow-ish things at this point that I can get to, I think, in the schedule of things here is my one I actually wanted to play today. This is, it's been, to put it lightly, it's been a little bit of a sausage fest for 12 episodes of this show. So to make up for that, I picked, I think, the fastest song that I've ever done on stream. It's 220 BPM. It's a song called Thunder Vengeance by an all women Japanese J-metal group called Lovebites, which is, I think they're named after the Hailstorm song, I'm pretty sure. Otherwise, I don't know why they're called that. But this is blazingly fast. I'm definitely going to need to mess with the volume here. This is a very particular arrangement. It's very busy, but bear with me as I get it set up here. But yeah, I'm excited to play this one. This is super fast. This is like instant. This is like power metal on crack. This is like my definition of like a perfect song, basically. So stay tuned. Thunder Vengeance, Lovebites. Here we go. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what they call uh a lot of fun. um, that's what they call fast. Um, oh boy. Yeah, that's a fun one. I almost don't even know what to say. I think that came up. We were talking about Danzig earlier, just coming up randomly at the end of a playlist. I think that was something that some streaming service or YouTube or something sort of recommended to me because I spent 5 minutes 6 months before that listening to the newest Galnerius album. I knew almost nothing about any of these Japanese bands. And then yeah, I think maybe I can't remember when that album came out. Maybe it was early 2020. It just sort of randomly got recommended to me. And you look at the cover and it's like a wolf being electrocuted and the big word Lovebites on it. And I look at this and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I know it's Japanese. It was just that weird looking. And it's like I just immediately I turned on that first track and I was like, okay, I'm prepared for anything here. Like I had no clue what to anticipate. And then that first track kicks in, which is that one, which is Thunder Vengeance. And immediately I was like, oh my God, I've been missing so much. And that set me into like a whole spiral of like going through the Galnerius back catalog, which is like weirdly not easy because it seems like their albums inconsistently are up on like streaming services, and then it's equally difficult to sometimes get a hold of like the physical CDs as well. Like albums seem to disappear and reappear on streaming kind of at random, it seems like. And then yeah, the CDs, the distribution is just not very good to North America. And so then, yeah, like I was trying to listen to Galnerius, but then I just got into like other Japanese metal bands. So like that was where I got into Deer and Grey, which has what is the absolutely insane song? It's not Blossoming Beelzebub. It's something off of the album Doom Spiro Sparrow, I believe it's called. Some totally insane song. Different Sense. I'm not even going to play that because it's so harsh sounding. And also I can't like cover it on the drums because the arrangement is so busy and complicated that I couldn't even attempt it now for you. But just like listen to that song. Different Sense. It is like that was one of those other songs like the one I just played where it was like I heard it and I was like, oh, I've missed out on a whole world of music. Like I really dropped the ball on this. There's a whole universe to explore that I like wasn't even aware of. And then what other bands? X Japan, is that one of them? Yeah, like tons of just like amazing bands. It's almost like particularly I would say for power metal and like death metal and black metal, it's almost like they had exposure to the Western bands and then we're like, what if we just took this to like the absolute logical extreme? You know? And you can hear it in that song, you know? It's like if that song was a Rhapsody song, right? You can picture them making a song like that. But like it would have been 20 BPM slower, right? It would have been at 200 BPM. It would be like this. But that's like not the pace of that song. It's this. Like it's someone's given it like, you know, like an adrenaline shot or something like that. I mean, it's like classic power metal, except yeah, with an adrenaline shot or a 5-hour energy or something like that. You know, I mean, it's just so off the wall. So that was the song I really wanted to play. I think I got pretty close to nailing that, but I did take last week off, so I felt like I owed playing a whole variety of different music. So I think I want to return to at least one long song. I want to at least return to And Then There Was Silence and try to nail that one. And then maybe also Glass Prison again. It's been a hot minute since I played that, and I just, again, I want to get the last like 4 minutes of that song down perfectly. So I really want to try that again. But I want to play at least one of those, and then maybe I'll play Thunder Vengeance one more time and call it quits for the night. Yeah. Let's try And Then There Was Silence. That's like a nice come down from a song that fast. How about we do that? Assuming I can actually get the app to load here. Let's see. I might have to reset the volume for this as well, but that's okay.
I feel that some surprise, surprise, they're gone. When your time goes by and you move still, kept out of sight. We live in misty tales and we die on this and
Would have been perfect if it weren't for the app crashing. That's all right, though. I feel like it gave me a good 11 minutes of the track or something like that before it cut out on me, which is fine. You can play that every week. It's fun, right? Because it's like, it's long. It's a cool arrangement. There's some really amazing, like, super metal fills and stuff like that you can have fun with, but it's also not... it's really not too intensive because it's a pretty moderate tempo. You know what I mean? Like, not bad at all in that regard. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun. I think in order to avoid total repetition of stuff, I'm not going to try to land the Glass Prison once and for all tonight. I will save that for some later week or something. But I do want to play. I want to play the fast one again. I want to play Thunder Vengeance again. So I think we're going to play that and then maybe be done. Yeah, I guess I'll play it one more time. Yeah, here we go. Going to do this and then head out.
Cause of
I don't know why I find that one so fun to play, but oh, it's just it's just a great song. I don't know, like the chorus is perfect. It's like I don't know what the hell they're saying, but it gets stuck in my head regardless. Oh, and it's so fast. It's one of those songs where it's so fast that you can almost picture like the acoustic halftime version because it's so fast that it almost just becomes like a metameter. Like you can almost imagine the song is like da 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 da. You can picture it at like 110 BPM rather than 220 BPM. Which is like I'm trying to think of an equivalent song. There's a song off of Reaching to Infinity, the album, the Dragon Force album from a couple years ago that's like comparably fast. But yeah, there's not like a ton in sort of conventional music that really hits speeds like that. I don't know. Maybe that's the ticket to maybe mastering the super fast feet and the blast beats and stuff, is to enter it through the world of power metal where it's still more like thrash beats and stuff like that. That might be the way for me to like really get comfortable with the higher tempos. Things where there's like little bursts of blast beats and stuff like that rather than full on like 5 minutes at a time. You notice in there, I do actually throw in like a little quarter note long blast beat in one part. Because there's like snare rolls during the verses of that song, but occasionally I'll just, it's a single stroke roll. Might as well make it into a little quarter note long blast. That's decently fast for a blast beat. I know people get a lot faster than that, but I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, I don't know. I think that song's so much fun. In fact, I would say go listen to A Different Sense by Deer and Gray, and go listen to just that whole album that song is on. That whole album is just amazingly good power metal, and it's better than anything that like. I don't know, man. Power metal is just, it feels like it's in such a slump. I really think it's better than like anything that people have been doing in like Western bands. It's like Judicator, which is like an indie power metal band, is still out there doing their thing. I'm like delighted that they're still out there doing their thing. But like, what else is out there? It's like, how many remixes of Iced Earth songs can you hear that John Schaefer is like mixing from his prison cell right, or whatever, as he attempts to like scrounge up the money for bail or whatever he's doing now currently. You know what I mean? It's like, how many of these songs can you listen to where they're like new and exciting, where it's like that is genuinely like, that beats any Iced Earth song. You know what I mean? It's just as chuggy, it's just as heavy, but guess what? It's even faster. The vocal line is even better and catchier, and the playing is more on, to be completely honest. I mean, the playing is better. I love some of the drummers who were in some of those power metal bands. What was his name? Mark Prater, I think, was the one of the guys in Iced Earth, as well as Brent Smedley. Like, tons of these guys. They're great, but it's like, it's still done with this, like, ethos of, being super heavy rather than being super precise, and the end result is just that like on recording they don't necessarily sound all that great, right? You can really hear the warts on like even the latest Demons and Wizards album, which was like a total bore, right? There's a lot of songs that they're a total bore, but weirdly you can still hear that like the drums are being hit too hard in quiet sections, and then they're being hit too softly in loud sections. You know what I mean? Like there's still this ethos of like raw playing or something like that, when the truth is that, I don't know, you need a surgically precise sound, and you need to be able to be willing to give up a little bit of your identity as a player and let go of your ego in order to really make the songs sound good. You know what I mean? It's like you can't get away with it in something like power metal, which is so busy, right? You need to play really efficiently and effectively, you know. Yeah, but like listen to some of the songs in that latest Demons and Wizards album. You'll hear exactly what I mean. Brent Smedley's a really creative player and stuff, but like, you know, the first song on that is like this 9-minute thing, and it opens with like a pretty quiet intro, and he comes in on like a closed hi-hat, just doing like a slow gallop to keep time, and like it's too loud. Like it's crazy how loud it is. Like it's literally this like somber, solemn like bass line going for like the first minute and a half of the song. And like inexplicably Brent Smedley comes in playing nothing but a closed hi-hat, and it's like he's hammering on this hi-hat. It's like such a like inexplicably he's playing so loudly. You know what I mean? Whereas like I don't know, yeah, you just need to really think about and I imagine for, you know, a band like Lovebites or something like that, right? That's playing music that's that fast. There's a lot of thought given to like cymbal placement, right? Are your cymbal mics bleeding into your snare mic? Are your toms too close together? And are the mics picking up sound from the other microphones surrounding it? Do they need to be spaced farther apart? Like the sound is just so full and rich that it's like clearly a lot of thought has gone into how are we going to make this musicianship actually sound good and not like just a muddled mess. You know what I mean? And like that's an attention to detail that I don't hear in like a lot of Western bands currently. You know what I mean? It's like they either are a lot of modern like bands in America or the UK are like they're either doing like super raw recordings that sound kind of like shit, or they're just straight up doing like Pro Tools jobs. You know what I mean? Where it's like you can actually hear the artificiality of the instruments and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not particularly interested in either of those, to be honest with you. I just don't really think it's like there can be a lot of great compositions there, but you're almost not hearing players at that point. You know what I mean? You're just hearing like the guitarist's composition in Pro Tools that's produced really immaculately. You know what I mean? So it's like I prefer like something that actually seamlessly blends those things, and where the band has clearly put effort into seamlessly blending the surgical precision of the digital technology with like actually still having an analog real performance. I much prefer that. It's just that requires a ton of effort, so I don't think people are as willing to do it. Okay, I've gone on for long enough here. Changing the day of the week that this was on was definitely a good idea because I got a ton more practice in, and despite my desire to absolutely like destroy the drum kit in the first 10 minutes of this, which you will not see because I stopped the stream and then tried to fix the drums and then came back to it. But yeah, the first 10 minutes of this were like a disaster. In spite of that, which probably would have happened regardless, no matter when I decided to stream, I had way more practice time, which I think means that my playing was way more solid. So I think I'm going to continue on with this. Because I think the playing was just way better today because I had so much more practice time. So, yeah, be on the lookout for this basically around this time every week from now on. I don't know what's going to happen with the holidays coming up here. I'll probably do it next week because we have Thanksgiving this coming week, and then that'll be over, so I don't see why I couldn't stream again. But yeah, I think it'll be good. Gonna keep on with this day and this around this time. Who knows? But yeah, much better. Slowly working the kinks out. Now I just have to not destroy my cymbals in frustration, particularly at the ghost cymbal. See, now it's kind of behaving. Wait a second. I can't make it misbehave, but yeah. No, the part that was cut, this was the problem. This was just going insane. Not good. not good. So, all right. Sayonara. Keep on keeping on. Have a good week. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye. Have a beautiful time.